نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وسلم عليه. This short video is to explain very briefly the masla of zakat. The fuqaha have written extensively entire abwab chapters this much on this issue, so the objective of this video isn't of course to go into a great deal which would take probably days if not weeks to go through. The idea of this video and the purpose is to give you a basic understanding so that at least we as the lay people can fulfill this duty and obligation upon us. Zakat, of course, as we know, is made obligatory upon us, further upon us by Allah in the Quran. It is a foundation of our faith, and rejection of this is of course kufr, and to fulfill this is something which is obligatory upon us and which we will be accountable for in the grave and on the day of judgment. So first of all, what I'd like to explain to you is what is zakat payable on, an issue which people aren't clear about. Simply, the fuqaha have categorized three things upon which we as individuals must pay zakat. First is gold, silver, and the addition of currency has been made to this, in other words pounds, dollars, yen, rupees, whatever currency of the country that you live in. So gold, silver and currency, that's the first thing that zakat is payable on. Secondly is animals that you may own, for example sheep, goats, cows, camels, whatever it may be in that respect. This doesn't include pets such as parrots or cats, dogs in that respect, unless, and this is where the third category comes in, that anything that you own for the purposes of trade. So unless you are breeding cats and dogs and parrots for the purposes of selling and earning an income, or anything else that you own for the purposes of trade or selling, that you must pay zakat upon those items. So gold, silver and currency, number one, animals, number two, and items which you own for trade. These are the three things upon which you must pay zakat. However, what isn't included in this, and this is the area which people need to understand, is your house that you live in, household items, clothes, food. All of these things zakat is not payable upon. You don't have to pay zakat on any of those. Yes, any additional property that you own for investment purposes, anything which you own to rent out, etc., then you must pay zakat on that. Also, what is excluded in zakat is things like watches for personal use, again not for trade or investment, gems, rubies, diamonds, emeralds, etc., again which you own for personal use and not for trade. All of these things you do not pay zakat on. Likewise, if you have a holiday home in another part of the country, which again you don't rent out or earn any income from, but is something that you use for your personal use, then that's not applicable in terms of zakat. You don't pay zakat on that. So next, who must pay zakat? Well, an individual who owns 88.48 grams of gold, 612.36 grams of silver, or the equivalent current value in your local currency. If you have ownership of that amount of wealth, then you must pay zakat. One thing to remember is when establishing whether you have this amount of wealth, and I've defined wealth as those three items. When establishing whether you have this amount of wealth, there are many people who own wealth but also have debts. So what you must do is calculate the value of your wealth, subtract any debt that you owe to the bank or any third party, and then the balance of that, if it equates to the value of 88.48 grams of gold or 612.36 grams of silver, then you must pay zakat upon that. Another point to remember here is that if you have given any loans out, somebody owes you money, then you must add that to your wealth, your portfolio of wealth. Wealth here means gold, silver, currency as in savings, money in the bank account, etc., animals or items for trade which you have owned for a year or more. Year means a lunar year, not a solar year, so it's the Islamic year, not the English or Western year. Now, what is the amount of zakat you pay? The amount of zakat is 2.5% on wealth which you have owned for a year. And finally, who is eligible to receive zakat? This is an area of great concern for me, so I'd like you all to pay attention and please pass on this knowledge so that people can benefit in ensuring that their zakat is paid. One thing I'd like to establish here at this juncture is that the onus is upon the individual to ensure that his or her zakat is going to the right place, that only those people who are eligible to receive zakat are receiving it. If you give zakat to a person who is not eligible to receive it, in your mind he may well be, but because you don't know the criteria of what makes a person eligible to receive zakat, you may give it to somebody who is in fact not eligible. If you give your zakat to such people, then even though you have paid that money, on the Day of Judgment your zakat will still be outstanding. It won't be counted as having been fulfilled, and that is a great cause of concern for us all. So, who is eligible to receive zakat? The fuqaha have ruled that an individual who has up to or owns up to £250 worth of wealth, or 40,000 Pakistani rupees, and you may convert that to any other currency. A person who owns that much wealth, I've already given you the definition of wealth. A person who owns £250 or more, that person is not eligible for zakat. Again, subtract your house, subtract your clothing, subtract your food, household items, all of those things, and after that, if you own £250, then you cannot receive zakat. One thing to add into here again is, when calculating that, any debt that you owe must be subtracted from your wealth, and any loans which are due to you, that somebody owns you, they must be added to your wealth when calculating that. And if the final value of your wealth is £250 or more, 40,000 Pakistani rupees or more, then you cannot receive zakat. The area of concern is that many of us today will send our money to our countries of origin, for example Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, the Middle East, and Africa, whatever. And we think that people are very poor and therefore we send our zakat to them. However, please use this formula to ensure that those people who you are sending your zakat to are in fact eligible to receive zakat. For example, in the current price of gold in the UK is around £250 per 10 gram of gold. So in other words, £25 per gram of gold. Now, 10 grams of gold is not a lot of gold. Many poor people will own that amount of gold, or the value of that. That doesn't mean to say that they're rich or, far from it. They're still very poor, but they are not poor enough to receive zakat. Zakat has been reserved by Allah as the haqq, as the right of extremely poor people, and so it is our duty to ensure that we give our zakat to the correct places. For this reason, please ensure that whenever you give your zakat, please do your research. If you give it to organizations, there are serious issues involved in making sure that your zakat money is not mixed with other money, and that it is given to those people who are eligible. For example, people receive zakat and they use it in their organizations. They don't actually discern between zakat money received, sadaqah and lillah, etc. They just put it all into the pot and spend it generally. They cannot do that. Zakat must be given to the fuqara, which Sharia has advised us and given us the definition of, as per my description in this video. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to benefit from this short video and to ensure that we all pay our zakat in the correct way to the correct people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.